So the purpose of this video is just to give all of our Imagine Upstate exhibitors an idea of what to expect on Festival Day. We're super excited for April 2nd, and we're looking forward to all the STEAM activities you guys have planned. So first things first, we're going to talk about our mission. So I think it's really helpful when going into Festival Day to keep in mind what our mission at Imagine Upstate is. And so we're really just trying to create meaningful experiences that are going to promote lifelong learning and career readiness in STEAM fields. So that is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So that's what we want all of you guys to keep in mind as you come into Festival Day, as you're getting ready for your activities. And so you guys are all exhibitors, so you should know what an exhibitor is at this point, but just to be a refresher, exhibitors are going to be organizations, nonprofits, businesses that have a presence in South Carolina. You guys are going to be planning your own activities, bringing in all the supplies, just something to facilitate learning for all of our attendees. A successful exhibit should foster interactive learning. We really want this to be a hands-on experience for all of our attendees. We also want to promote innovation and creativity, since those are so integral to STEAM fields. And we also want to make sure we're aligning with our appropriate STEAM education standards. So we want to be inclusive of a lot of different grade levels and make sure everyone is learning at a level they should be. To add to that, we also want to align with college and career pathways. Since you guys are businesses or organizations in South Carolina, you are interested in career development for all the South Carolinians. So that's how we want to gear this festival. And at that same level, we want to offer education and career guidance for that. To be successful, you need to be organized and you need to be ready for a large audience. There will be a lot of people there on Festival Day. So just be ready to be effective and have fun. So now we're going to get into some frequently asked questions. And I have two panelists here to help me do that. These are two exhibitors that have been at the Imagine Upstate festivals in the past. They know the ropes. So they're going to help me answer these questions. So that is Eugene Grant from BMW and Josh Folks from Copus. So thank you guys for being here. Our first question is, what does a typical exhibit space look like? Could you guys give us some insight on what it looks like on Festival Day?
Josh, why don't you answer first?
Absolutely. So definitely glad to be here, glad to help. I think a typical exhibit space looks however customizable the exhibitor wants to customize it. They have a lot of freedom, a lot of control in order to move and decorate, have different activities, different space. Usually you are given a tent that has a couple tables inside of that tent. And then based on what your activity looks like, you'll have, access to electricity and other things that you may need, but definitely making room for the activity that you're putting on, having some sort of information about your company, what you guys are doing, what career paths you guys are promoting, and then obviously, allowing for the kids, the families to come by and, just take part in whatever you guys are displaying, making sure there's enough space for your volunteers and everything like that. So again, a lot of it is customizable. You can have it your way, but definitely just keep a few of those things in mind.
Mm-hmm. And if Eugene,
yeah, I would. Sure, I would agree with exactly what Josh has said. I think you have the opportunity to make it as interactive as you would like for it to be. So with that being the case, I know in our past, we try to spread out a little bit so the kids have enough room to move, because they tend to get pretty excited when they're doing some of these activities. And so you want them to have fun and not be trying to, control so somebody doesn't get hurt. And so just spread the activities out a little bit. And so a lot of times if it's not overly sunny, we'll even drag our tables out a little bit if we have enough room. A lot of it would just depend on, your spot and that kind of thing. But, we've brought driving robots before, and so we pretty much intermingle with the participants themselves. So we'll be standing out in front and driving our robot around, and then we'll just hand it to one of the kids. So it's all about trying to dream up that excitement, for them. You want to make it fun, and to me, that's the key. But yeah, it's extremely flexible and customizable. Just bear in mind, the safety of aspects, things like that. But for the most part, no, keep it fun.
For sure. Thank you guys for your input. And so here's some extra information. So every standard exhibitor is going to get a 10 by 10 tent that will be provided by Professional Party Rentals. They will bring it in day of, set it up, and break it down for all of you. There will also be one table and 2 chairs along with that tent. If you guys want to add any promotional materials like your own signage, your own banners, flyers, business cards, all of that, you are more than welcome to bring all of that. We actually encourage it because the more signage, the more you're going to be able to draw attendees into your booth. But we do ask that you try to keep your activity within the confines of your exhibit space. There will be a lot of people, there will be a lot of exhibitors, so try not to spill out of your tent too much if you can. Alrighty, and we will move on to the next question. So how many people should exhibitors expect to come to their booths? If you guys want to give any insights to that.
I would say roughly, depending on the turnout, I would say roughly 1K to 2K kids throughout the entire length of the festival. So that's going from 11 a.m. to, I believe, 5 p.m. So I would say if you have any prizes, toys, giveaways, just make sure your materials, your activity materials kind of adjust for that many kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you'll see times where there'll be a peak number of people, and then it may slow down a little bit depending around certain times, lunchtime. Sometimes it'll slow down a little bit where people are sitting down eating, but no, it will be steady all day long. And make sure you got plenty of if you're choosing to bring plenty of giveaways, yeah, make sure you got plenty of them, because you will be surprised at the turnout that you will see.
For sure. And Josh hit the nail on the head with what we expect. We do recommend that you have enough stuff for around 1,000 to 2,000 attendees. In total, we expect over 12,000 people to be at the Imagine Upstate Festival, but not everyone will be able to make it to every exhibit. And so that is why we recommend you have supplies for around 1,000 to 2,000 attendees. So next question is going to be, what happens if I run out of supplies for my activity? So if either of you guys have experienced this or seen this happen to someone else, what type of things have you seen?
So in the
I know.
Oh, you can go. Absolutely, you can go, Eugene.
No, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
So I know in my experience, I know it is sometimes it does happen. Some people do run out of experience. Sometimes we have volunteers go and get something easy if that's possible, but if not, it's not the end of the show. I just do think you can still, stay around and be present for the people who want to come by your booth. But I definitely say if you could prepare for it, you should, but I don't think you should, pack up shop if that does happen.
Yeah, I mean, we had planned on in the past, we would always have one vehicle that was parked outside of the area, and because of the way we staff our exhibit, we always have one extra person that, if necessary, could run back to our place of business to get more materials, or to potentially even run to the grocery store or something to buy some candy or something for some kind of giveaway, whatever that may be. But yeah, I mean, because once you're inside the event area, you can't move anything. So, ensure that, because for us from BMW, of course, a vehicle is part of our display. Well, we have to make sure we have an extra vehicle parked outside in case we do need to, because once the event starts, you're there until the end. So you can't take your stuff down and get out. And so you need to be aware of that and plan for that ahead of time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for your insight. So here's some extra information or recommendations for that. So since you might run out of your primary activity, it might be a good idea to have a backup that's low cost, low maintenance, easy little activity. Something where you wouldn't have to use consumable materials could be an option. We ask that you do stay the whole time, even if you run out of supplies. So please don't close down your booth or leave. We do expect you to be there. If you run out of supplies, you can always talk to attendees about career paths, leading them into careers that might be into your field, just telling them about what your organization or business does. Anything like that is what we would encourage you to do. So next question, we've already kind of answered, but another little thing on that is, will there be lines outside of my exhibit? What have you guys experienced?
Yeah, for us, especially at peak times, we have had, 3, 4, 5 deep waiting to participate in particular activities. And there'll be, it depending on what you set up in your exhibit. In the past, we've had some of our hands-on activities have longer lines than others. So of course we've learned from that. And so we took advantage of the ones we know that were very popular versus the ones that were not. And, but yes, plan on some lines. That's part of why we try to spread out a little bit, when we can, just so people, have enough room to move. And, but yeah.
Yeah, and I do think, definitely expect lines. I agree with what you're saying. And depends on the activity that you guys have that you're putting on. If you keep it, time sensitive, like if it's something that, they're playing with robots or they are, playing in non-Newtonian fluid, keep it, time sensitive for each kid to participate in, and then that will kind of speed up those lines as well. So just keep that in mind as you keep your activity throughout.
For sure. Thank you.
One other thing I wanted to add,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
One of the things that I wanted to add too, looking at talking about lines and running out of supplies. If you do happen to run out of supplies, feel free to reach out to your neighboring exhibitors. A lot of times they'll have extra stuff, because we know it's all about the kids. And so you may not be advertising, it may not be what you wanted to have on the logo or whatever, but just to keep the energy high and the level of participation engaging, a lot of the exhibitors are usually willing to help too. So just bear that in mind.
Absolutely. I love that. It is about the kids. So we do want everyone to encourage each other, help each other out on festival day. Absolutely. But long story short, yes, we do expect there to be lines at our booths. Like we've already mentioned, there's going to be over 12,000 attendees. So there's a lot of people. Both of our panelists have already mentioned this, but if you could try to speed up your activity when you see a line forming and just be flexible throughout the day and anticipate a crowd. So our next question is, help. I need more people to help manage my booth. How can I get volunteers? How can I go about staffing my exhibit?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I haven't experienced this one personally. I would think start with the information tent and the Imagine group and see, or the impact group, and see what they suggest, because they may very well be some volunteers around that could help you staff it. If no longer than for just you as an individual to take a bio break or go get some lunch. So, but yeah, I personally have not experienced this one, so I'm really not sure.
Yeah, so I think in past festival days, the Imagine team has different volunteers that are walking around the entire site. And if you actually are running out of volunteers or you need to take a break or whatever the case is, you could definitely go to the Imagine information, ask a volunteer. They should be able to help man your activity, help man your booth until things are figured out and situated. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to the Imagine board, the Imagine team, anyone on festival day for a little bit of assistance.
Absolutely. We do have staff and volunteers there day of to help you. We'll be walking around in t-shirts, we'll be marked. So just grab us if you need help. That being said, our volunteers are going to have a lot of jobs day of already. So we don't want all of them to get pulled to exhibits. So we really encourage you to staff your booth with people from your own organization as much as possible. Try to get enough people where you can work in shifts. That way, everyone gets to have a break, everyone can experience the festival. If you desperately need volunteers, you can't find enough, you can't staff them from your organization, there are a couple websites you can look into. There's United Way, Hands On Connect, and volunteermatch.org. So if you're desperate, you can check those out. Our next question is asking about lunch and bathroom breaks. So I want to ask our panelists, were you guys able to walk the festival site and have a break in past years, or were you just slammed the whole time?
So speaking from my experience, the way that our booth set up were set in shifts. So we were able to take breaks, walk around the festival, check out other events. It's very cool to check out other companies and some of the activities they have on. But the way we handled it is we had, 2 to 3 hour shifts that we would come in and man the booths. We got enough volunteers from company in order to have 3 to 4 people, possibly even 5 people at the booth at all times. So that way you can walk around, use bathrooms, check out the entire festival. And I definitely recommend having some sort of setup that is similar to that.
Exactly. That's exactly how we handle it. When we're asking for our volunteer list to begin with, we already have created shifts because that's part of the in my opinion, at least for those of us who tend to work a lot of our exhibits like this, is part of the expectation of volunteering and being there. And that's to go see what other people are doing so we all can gain and learn from each other, And so as part of that, yeah, every one of our volunteers has an opportunity for bio breaks, lunch breaks, as well as time just to engage the other exhibitors throughout the event.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, we want everyone to be able to experience it. We want everyone to be able to see all the fun things happening at the festival and get breaks. So there will be public restrooms around the festival site. So there's the courtyard next to the visitor center, which is near where the Ice on Main location was over there by City Hall. There's more public restrooms around Falls Park. If you take the elevator next to Spill the Beans, there's some behind the Peace Center near the Weish Pavilion. So lots of places around the city where there's public restrooms. And then Imagine will also be bringing in some portable toilets, and those will be all along the festival site with hand washing stations. So there will be restrooms galore for you guys to use if you need to. So next question is approximately how many volunteers should be running the exhibit at one time? What do you guys think?
It's totally going to depend on how you set up your exhibit. I've seen as few as 2 people in a 10 by 10 running their setup. And then I know for us here at BMW, we usually have about 8 to 10 at any given time running ours. It just depends on the activities and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think the activity definitely, kind of depends on how many people you need running it, watching it, making sure everything is safe. I would recommend, probably 3 to 4, but also, if your activity is easy enough, 2 people, I can definitely see. But I would always encourage at least more than, or at least 2 or more, because then if something happens, someone can take a break, walk away, and then obviously, you have someone to man the booth at that point.
Exactly. Thank you guys for your insight. So what we recommend is at least 2 volunteers for every 10 people visiting your booth at any given time. I know that's kind of hard to estimate, but basically the more the merrier. You always want to be able to have too many rather than not enough, especially when it gets super busy at your booth. But like our panelists said, if you have a smaller exhibit, 2 people might be enough. If you have a larger exhibit, you might need to have closer to 10. So it totally depends on what you're doing and how involved your activity is. And again, try to get enough volunteers so that everyone has a chance to take a break, or you can work in shifts. So we've mentioned that multiple times, but we do think it is very important to be successful on festival day. So next question is about food and water availability for the day of. So if our panelists could tell us what they did to grab lunch the day of, if they packed a cooler, how they got drinks, stuff like that.
For us, we back to what I was sharing earlier, we usually allow people time to go take a lunch break. And then, you know, of course, I hope as part of that opportunity, they go visit some of the vendors within the event itself, because it's helping them out, as well as they can walk and see while they're eating. We do usually provide a small cooler of just waters for our volunteers, just in case, you know, because we have been at this exhibit where it's hot, and then we've been at the exhibit when it's cold. But we do usually bring like a small cooler of just waters, just in case, you know, somebody needs some liquid refreshment.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I think, you know, in the past few years, we've also brought some coolers. We've had someone in our planning committee just grab light snacks in the morning, like breakfast bars or whatever the case is. So that way, you know, people can have energy and they're eating while they're helping set up, or, you know, the initial points of the festival itself. There's obviously water around the festival that, you know, will be able to be accessed, and then food trucks around that, you know, you can purchase for lunch as well. So there's ample opportunities. Definitely keep that in mind when you are, you know, with your volunteers and you're planning for the day. You know, bringing a small cooler with water or some small snacks would definitely be, you won't, you know, be upset that you did it.
Sure. Yes. So they kind of mentioned this, but we will have food trucks. We have what we call a food truck hub that's on the bridge over the Reedy River in the middle of our festival site. We will have 5 food trucks this year with all sorts of different foods. And we will also have Pepsi there. So Pepsi products, water bottles can be purchased at that food truck hub. That being said, packing waters is not a bad idea, so that you can provide your volunteers with free water. So packing a small cooler or something might be a great idea. So this next question is not necessarily something our panelists can answer, but it is definitely important to know. So parking on festival day for our exhibitors, where should you go? So we don't have specific reserved parking for festival day. All exhibitors need to remove their cars before 10 a.m. on April 2nd. So when we're loading in and stuff, all the cars need to be removed from the festival site an hour before we start. Once you have unloaded and everything, parking can be found in some nearby garages. So we have the River Street garage, Broad Street parking garages, the Poinsett Hotel parking garage, all of that. If you want free parking, you can park in County Square, and there will be a free trolley thanks to GreenLink running from County Square to the festival site. So you won't have to do as much walking. It's not a far walk if you need to, but the trolley will be running for free for you guys. So our next question.
Is the county?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Lauren.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the county square where the old highway department? Well, the highway department, I guess, is still there. So,
I'm actually not totally sure, but the address can be found on our website. If you go to visiting the festival on our website page, you can find maps of all of this and directions for when you come in.
Thank you.
Okay, and so our next thing is, where should we direct people who ask questions that the exhibitors can't answer? So what have you guys done festival day when you have questions?
So personally, we have questions. We definitely point people in direction of the Imagine State information booth, or to a volunteer walking around with, you know, t-shirt that designates them as part of the Imagine Festival Planning Committee. So I do think that that is a great resource that they are, and all those, they'll be able to help in almost any question that someone has that might come to your booth.
Completely agree. That's how we've handled it.
Right. And that is how we would recommend doing it. We do have 3 information booths that are spread out evenly throughout our festival site. So there'll be one at both ends and then one in the middle. And that's where our staff and our impact board and our volunteers will be. And they will try to answer any questions that you have. We will also be walking up and down the festival site. Again, you can notice us with our t-shirts. So if you have a question, just snag us. We'll try to answer it and make sure everything's running smoothly. And so these next 2 questions are, again, more of a question for me rather than our panelists. So questions about first aid for day of. We are going to offer first aid and EMS services on festival day. So there will be EMS nearby, and then we'll have smaller things like Band-Aids, little things like that available at information booths and some first aid kits around. And then also asking about, are there any special considerations for volunteers or attendees with disabilities? So we don't have any specific accessibility measures in place for Imagine, but if that's something that you need or think we should implement for next year, please feel free to reach out to me, Lauren, or Dallas. Her email's up there. We love to get any recommendations on what we could be doing better, and we want to make sure that Imagine is accessible for everyone. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So our next thing is, are t-shirts available to exhibitors? Are they free? How much do they cost? So I'll ask Eugene and Josh, do either of you have t-shirts from previous festivals?
Yeah.
I do.
Yes, and so
we had
those are available for purchase on festival day. They are normally pretty cute. They've got our little robot on them. This year, they're going to be green with our robot and some STEAM featured elements on it. Adult t-shirts are going to be $25 and youth t-shirts are $18. But again, those are not free to exhibitors. Next thing is, does the event run regardless of rain or bad weather conditions? This is another thing that I can answer. So Imagine Upstate is rain or shine. We do plan to have the event at all costs, but if inclement weather does arise, like lightning, storming, bad wind, we will try to promptly come up with a plan and relay it to all of our exhibitors. So each exhibit has a central contact person that we have marked in our records, and we will try to contact all of you as soon as possible. And we will also be walking the festival site, and if something comes up, we will let you all know as we walk along the festival site. So next thing is, any communication tips for day of? So our panelists, what have you guys done to make sure all your staff is on the right page, making sure that everything goes smoothly?
So in our experience, in terms of communication, we definitely want to make sure our volunteers they have great communication before the event. So sending out emails the week before, sending out emails the day before, just to make sure that they know what shift they're on, what time they should be there, what to expect once they get there. You know, if you guys have, if you're gonna buy a shirt, or you have, company shirts with your logo, make sure they know what to wear. And then, once you guys are there, express what that activity looks like, how to run it, how to communicate with kids and what happens. And then obviously safety communication, making sure if anything goes wrong, or if anything happens, you guys know who to contact or what to go do from there. So there's no such thing as too much communication. I do think that just making sure that everything is laid out, and if you don't know what to go, they have a point of contact within your booth. I think that's a great idea as well. So
Yeah, I think Josh pretty much answered it. I mean, that's exactly how we handle it. We'll usually have a team meeting on Friday. At what point we'll go ahead and preload everything into the vehicle, so then when we get up and leave Saturday morning, everything is already loaded. And so, but yeah, it's all about just maintaining a continuous flow of communication. So
For sure. Thank you,
and
guys.
most of that is email and text. Email and text is what I have found too that works well, because they're mobile.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, making sure everybody's got their phone. So making sure whatever you're communicating with is something they can connect to mobily.
Absolutely. And so just to add to that, we do recommend that when you're coordinating all the staffing and volunteers for your exhibit day of, that everyone has each other's phone numbers and that they're actually saved as contacts in their phone and not just a mystery number that might be texting or calling them, just so that everyone can effectively communicate. Make sure that before festival day, everyone that is working the booth is familiar with your activity and knows how to explain it to our attendees. That just helps everything run smoothly and doesn't leave anyone confused in the process. It might be a good idea to prepare a little blurb for all of your staff to say at your exhibit to explain what your organization does and who you are, because we do want you guys to be able to promote what you're doing, try to get people engaged in your field. So it is helpful to have a little pre-prepared little speech, a little elevator speech you can give to people. And visuals are always helpful. So if you want to lead people to your website, or if your activity involves a website, QR codes are very helpful. Other little visuals with the instructions, all of that can help communication go much smoother. So next question is a question for me. It's how hard is the end time for the event? Will there be announcements to know that everyone needs to leave and shut down the exhibits? So our festival runs from 11 to 5. And that 5 p.m. is a hard end time. Professional party rentals will be coming in to tear all of the tents and tables down at that time. And so we really don't want to go over 5 p.m. We won't be making announcements throughout the festival site, but the festival staff will be walking up and down, alerting everyone that it's time, making sure everyone's aware that it's 5 p.m. And helping you guys out. So the next question is, what should I wear on festival day? Do I need to wear an Imagine t-shirt? Should I wear my organization's t-shirts? What do our panelists have to say about that?
Josh, I'll let you answer first.
All right. Yeah, so I think in the past, we've had our organization shirts that we've worn while we commit our booth. So if that's, something that just kind of reiterates that you are part of the booth, that you know what's going on, you are running the activity. And so when they come up to the booth of the tent, they know who to talk to, how do they participate, what needs to happen. There will be people wearing Imagine shirts, and I think those are the people who are kind of a part of the board and kind of, have those answers. So I do think there's a little bit of a distinction there, but if you want to wear Imagine shirt or anything, I think that's fine as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we have done it in the past. If we're working our booth, then we have on our uniform shirt. If we're volunteering with Imagine, then I usually switch shirts just so it's really easy for people to identify.
For sure. Yeah, and so they both nailed it hit nail on the head. So we want you guys to wear whatever your organization has advised you to wear. We think it works best if you wear branded apparel. So apparel that has your company name embroidered on it or any other markings that let them know that you are an exhibitor. And again, we want you guys to rep your organization, your business. You are welcome to purchase Imagine t-shirts. If you want to wear them, that's fine. But we are going to have our volunteers and our staff wearing t-shirts. And so we kind of want to make that distinction between the staff, who should I go to and I have questions, versus our exhibitors. So last little question here is, what else should I bring on festival day? Panelists, what has been helpful for you guys to bring that we haven't already discussed? Any little tips or tricks that go with that?
Well, I would think for us, the things we have wished we had brought in the past, and this may sound silly, but some, paper towels, or maybe even, just something to clean up if somebody spills the water, just so you can soak up the water so it doesn't mess up your tent or mess up your table if you've got parts on it or exhibits on it. And then I know the one year that we did not bring a small cooler with some waters is the year that it was so hot. And so that's the one thing that always stands out in my mind is think about your volunteers, if you're the leader, and the things that you might need to support them would be the thing that I would think about. And so, yeah, bear that in mind when you're kind of planning ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. The cooler, the drinks, stuff like that is pretty important. Depending on what your activity is, making sure that you have chargers enough to charge your devices. If that requires anything electronic, making sure you have enough cards, just supplies that you might be giving out to people. Tablecloths are even a great idea to put on top of the tables inside of the booths in case you want to have activities or people come up there. Cleaning supplies are also very well, but I mean, obviously the more stuff, you're always prepared. But if you forget something, we could definitely take care of that on festival day.
For sure.
I would say this too as well, because it just dawned on me. If you please remember, you're outside. Sometimes you will get gusts of wind. So, the staff don't typically provide like sandbags or something to weight down banners. And so if you don't want your banners flipping over, you may want to think about bringing something just to put some weight on them so they don't topple over when a gust of wind comes through. Otherwise, you'll do like we did the one year where we chased them the whole time until I finally took them down. so think about that as well. The tent don't move, but the banners will.
That's a great point. And being in April, we never know what the weather is going to bring here in South Carolina. So just be prepared. That's definitely the point of advice there. But some other things that we kind of thought of, depending on your activity, you might want some scissors, tape. If it's going to be really bright, sunny out there, you might want sunscreen. If it's going to be cold, you might want to bring jackets, any snacks for your volunteers, pens, Sharpies, anything like that, just small things that might come in handy on festival day. Better to bring too much than to be missing something. So just be prepared. So we have one last question here, which is one that I'm going to answer. It's asking about the setup and breakdown process. So how long does it take? What should we expect? So we say that the setup breakdown process each time is going to take around 45 minutes probably. So the steps are, first, you're going to enter the festival site from Broad Street and turn onto South Main Street. You will see there that we're going to have all of our volunteers. They're going to greet you. That's going to be our exhibitor check-in. So you're going to check in and you're going to get an entry pass at that time for whatever vehicle you are bringing in to unload all of your supplies. So you'll be directed to your tent. There is a site map. If you have not received that from the city of Greenville yet, you will, and it'll tell you exactly where your exhibit is set to be. So you'll be directed there. Once you get to your exhibit site, you will unload your supplies, all your equipment, and please try to do so as quickly as possible so that we don't get any major congestion. Just try to make it streamlined as possible. And then once you've unloaded everything that morning, you'll be instructed on how to leave the festival site to go park afterward. And that's the parking that we've talked about with parking garages or county square, any of those options. So once you get there, you have between 7 and 10 a.m. because we want you to be set up around an hour before the festival starts. And all exhibitors must be there by 9 a.m. on the 2nd. And that's, again, just to make sure that we have plenty of time to get ready that morning. So after all of the festival is over and we're ready to start breaking it all down, I've already mentioned that PPR is going to be the ones coming in to take all the tents, the tables, the chairs down. But you guys, you exhibitors, are going to be the ones responsible for taking all of your materials that you brought in. So anything that your activity required, any promotional banners, signs, anything like that that you brought, you will need to break down. And once you have all that done, someone will need to go to exhibitor checkout. It'll be in that same location to get an exit pass. That exit pass is used to get the car, and you cannot re-enter the festival site without an exit pass. So that exit pass is more like a re-entry pass to come get your stuff to load out. No vehicles, including golf carts, will be allowed to enter or exit until the Greenville police allows. We are going to have like barricades and stuff set up from the police department. So they are going to kind of be in charge of this traffic flow as well. So we are at their mercy as far as that goes. And then once everyone is ready to leave, there's going to be a one-way flow of traffic leading out of the festival site. And as you can imagine, this might cause some traffic backups. So plan accordingly. We try to make it as smooth as possible, but of course there are a lot of people, and so it might take a while. But that's all I have to explain that. Any last words from our two panelists or anything to add to what I just went over?
I guess the one thing that I want to say is just keep it fun. I mean, and you know, because sometimes we all get caught up in the pressures of trying to make sure we're representing the company and that kind of thing. But if you remember your audience, these are families with young kids to probably high school, and you know, you're just trying to show them experiences that will relate back to the STEM or STEAM initiatives. And so I think keeping anything hands-on and active and fun is the key to creating a very positive experience for them. So.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that. I think keeping it fun, high energy, remember, you know, the passion. These kids are eager to learn, eager to participate in activities, you know, take pictures, have fun with it. I mean, it's a day of, hopefully it's gonna be great weather, and it's gonna be a day of a lot of activities, a lot of fun. We'll be teaching a lot to these people coming to each booth, each activity, and yeah, I mean, have fun with it.
Awesome. Yes, that is.
One other thing that,
Go ahead, Eugene. Yep.
go ahead. No, I was just going to say one other tactic that that I had to use in the past, not necessarily with this particular event, but I started running low on giveaways and that kind of thing. You can always create some kind of activity where they have to then start engaging a little more instead of just picking up a particular giveaway. And that alone will slow down some of the giving away of the product or whatever, as long as you don't have long lines and that kind of stuff. But you know, because people's natural tendency is to, if you can create a game out of it, people love to win. And so when you can create a lose-win type situation, even when they lose, they still walk away with something. But maybe you only have 10 water bottles left, but you got 200 tubes of chapstick, you know, so maybe if they lose, they get a chapstick, but if they win, they get a water bottle or something. Those are just examples, but I do know we've had to do that in the past where we were underprepared, and we needed a way to kind of keep things moving and make them exciting. So we turned it into a game of chance. And so from that, a lesson learned, we now have a spin wheel that we bring with us that they spin it, and then whatever it lands on is what they win. So, and so it creates excitement for the kids, you know, because you'll see them get pumped, you know, and so anyway, that's just another thing that I thought of when we were going through that I wish I'd shared earlier.
For sure. Thank you so much for that insight. Yeah, we really want Festival Day to be fun, exciting, but we also want to challenge these minds of these young kids. They want to be challenged. They want to learn. So just really incorporating all of that, and it's going to be a great, great Festival Day. So just some closing remarks here. If you haven't already, please submit your required documentation. We do need a certificate of insurance, and then either a business license or a nonprofit tax determination letter, and then also a signed waiver from every single exhibitor. Many of you have already submitted that, so we appreciate that, but anyone that hasn't, if you could please get those to us as soon as possible. You can submit those through a portal on our website. And then last little thing here is just share about the festival. We are all very excited about April 2nd, and we want you guys to share with your friends, your family, your colleagues, anyone you know, anyone you think would be interested. This is a whole community event. Everyone is welcome. We want this to be accessible. Along those same lines, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're posting stuff all the time to keep people up to date, to get people excited. Feel free to share our posts and retweet. We would really appreciate that. And if you have any lingering questions, concerns, logistic problems, please contact me, Lauren. My email is listed there on the screen, or you can find it on our website, or Dallas. Her email is there as well and is also on the website. So we appreciate you guys for being an exhibitor at the 2022 festival. We are so excited to see you there. And it's going to be a great day on April 2nd.